A terminal window is sort of an old school interface via which you can run commands by literally typing them at a prompt and then hitting enter. So unlike in Scratch, and frankly, unlike in Mac OS and Windows these days, where you point and click and drag and so forth, interacting with a graphical user interface, a lot of our programming early on is going to involve typing commands. So let's make this more real. The goal at hand, again, is to quite simply implement a program in C that says hello to the world, which is functionally going to be similar to the Scratch program at left, but we now need to implement it using the language at right. So in this programming environment, I'm going to go ahead and click this plus sign up top for new file or tab. By convention, I'm going to go ahead and name my file something like hello.c. Hello, just because I want this program to say hello, but I could call it anything I want. And .c, because the convention in this programming language C is to name your files that contain your code is literally .c, much like you have .doc or .x for Microsoft Word, .gif for graphical files, and the like. So I'm going to go ahead and click Create File, and you'll see now that I have a blinking prompt on line 1. It's going to automatically number my lines for me in a tab called hello.c. This is where I can write code. Now, even though the code I'm about to write is frankly pretty cryptic, includes standard.io, int, main, void, and then in here I'm going to do printf, quote unquote, hello world, semicolon, I have just written my first program in C. So I'm going to go ahead and zoom in at top left. It's 6 lines of code total. And you'll see that I have include standard.io.h, whatever that means, int main void, whatever that means. And then really the essence of this program is on line 5, print, or printf for formatting, hello world. So recall that int main void is similar in spirit to the when green flag clicked, and printf is similar to the say block. And this top line of code, we just need it because the computer is not going to understand printf unless I tell it to include that file. All right. So now I claim I've written some code. How do I go about running it? Well, how do you run a program on your Mac or PC? What do you typically do? You double click it, right? And unfortunately, there doesn't seem to be anything obvious to double click here. In fact, there's no icon on my screen. And in fact, there's no program per se yet. Because computers, recall from last week, don't understand English. They don't technically understand C per se. What is the language the computers speak and understand? Yeah, so binary, zeros and ones. And yet this clearly is not zeros and ones. And frankly, none of us would have a good time if coding involved these days literally writing zeros and ones, which in some sense it did involve way back in the day. But nowadays, it turns out there's a solution to this problem.